Captain, do you know where we are?
कुछ नहीं दिखाई दे रहा. I can't see anything. Attempting to land, going blindly.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a flight crew finds themselves in a desperate situation, battling against the odds? Imagine being in the cockpit, surrounded by thick clouds and limited visibility, with the weight of hundreds of lives resting on your shoulders. Today, we're diving into a harrowing incident involving Jet Airways that illustrates the thin line between safety and disaster in aviation. It was a typical morning in southern India, with the Jet Airways flight headed for Cochin. As they neared their destination, weather conditions began to deteriorate, visibility dropped, and clouds loomed dangerously low. Faced with these challenges, the crew needed to make critical decisions that would determine the fate of everyone on board. Initially, the captain and first officer attempted to land at Cochin airport, but their first approach was unsuccessful. They executed a go-around, a common maneuver when conditions aren't right for landing. As they circled back, they could see that visibility was worsening. Despite this, they decided to try landing again. What's crucial to understand here is that many airlines implement strict policies for situations like this. They typically require pilots to divert to an alternate airport after a certain number of go-arounds to avoid what's known as get-there-tide, as this phenomenon can lead to poor decision-making as pilots feel an intense pressure to land, even when conditions are unsafe. Unfortunately, Jet Airways had no such policy in place. As the crew continued to hold over Cochin, they were informed that the visibility had dropped further, even as they burned precious fuel. The captain opted for one more attempt at landing. They were now in a critical state, with fuel reserves running low. The decision to push on rather than divert was becoming increasingly risky. While the crew was preoccupied with their intentions, a Kuwait Airways flight was attempting to land at Cochin, but also had to execute a go-around due to visibility issues. This alarming trend hinted at the growing severity of the situation. Meanwhile, Jet Airways was still fixated on Cochin, with no immediate consideration for their alternate option, Trivandrum, which was also experiencing poor weather. As they prepared to approach Trivandrum, the Air Traffic Control ATC informed them that visibility was now at a dangerous level of 1,500 meters, and they would be using a VOR approach rather than the ILS, which is less reliable in low visibility conditions. The minimum visibility required for a VOR approach was 2,100 meters, but the captain calculated a converted meteorological visibility of 2,250 meter sign, using the bright lights of the airport to justify continuing the approach. This decision was critical. It is essential to adhere to legal minima for safety. Nevertheless, the crew pressed on, fueled by the urgency of their situation. As they reached Trivandrum, they faced another hurdle. They were too high to begin the approach. They executed a 360-degree turn to lose altitude, which only consumed more of their dwindling fuel reserves. As they attempted to land for the fourth time, their fuel levels fell dangerously low. They made the distressing call of Mayday, Mayday as they dipped below their final reserve fuel threshold. With options narrowing and pressure mounting, the captain decided to attempt a visual approach despite the still poor visibility. Here's where things got particularly precarious. A visual approach requires clear sight lanes to the runway, which they didn't have. Yet, in a desperate gamble, they were cleared for the approach. They were flying blindly, relying on instinct rather than instruments. As they neared the runway, the crew realized they were too high again and had to execute another go-around. At this point, fuel was critically low, only a few minutes worth left. The captain made the bold decision to attempt landing on the opposite runway, runway 32, knowing that failure to land could result in a catastrophic crash over a populated area. As they turned towards the runway, the ground proximity alarms blared. They descended blindly through the clouds, unable to see anything but the flashing warnings. When the captain finally caught sight of the runway, they were in a precarious position, low and off course. They had to maneuver sharply to align with the runway, a risky move that sent the alarm bells ringing once more. Finally, just as hope seemed all but lost, the crew managed to stabilize the plane and touch down on runway 32. With only 349 kilos of fuel remaining, barely enough to have completed another circuit, they had made it. In the aftermath of this nail-biting sequence of events, investigations revealed significant shortcomings in Jet Airways' operational policies. The lack of guidelines for go-arounds and alternate airport designations under poor weather conditions played a pivotal role in the crew's decision-making. So, what lessons can we take from this incident? In aviation, having a clear set of policies and training protocols is vital. It's not just about getting the plane on the ground. It's about ensuring the safety of everyone on board. Crew members need to be trained to recognize their limits and adhere to safety protocols, even when emotions run high and the pressure mounts. Ultimately, aviation safety is a complex dance of technology, human judgment, and strict adherence to protocols. While the Jet Airways crew made it back safely, this incident serves as a poignant reminder that sometimes, in the face of adversity, the right decision may be the hardest one to make. In the world of aviation, preparation, awareness, and clear policies can mean the difference between a safe landing and a tragic outcome. And as we look towards the skies, we must always remember, safety is paramount, and the rules are there for a reason.